Well, tomorrow, the 8th annual San Francisco Green Film Festival begins with a week of new environmental films and discussions. Making its debut on Saturday is a documentary called Wilder Than Wild: Fire, Forests, and the Future, which takes a look at how fuel buildup and climate change have affected our wildfire season.
In the western United States, I believe something like 5 or 6 states within the last 10 years have had the largest wildfires they've ever had on record.
For more, I'm joined this morning by writer and producer Stephen Most and director Kevin White. Thank you so much for joining us and talking with us. We hear a lot from CAL FIRE that this is the new normal. Wildfire season lasting virtually all year round now, larger wildfires. What prompted you to make a documentary on this topic?
Well, actually, there is no normal. Things are getting worse, and we realize that wildfires in this century have increased in magnitude and destructiveness, so that of the most destructive, largest wildfires in the last 100 years, 80% have occurred since the year 2000. So the Rim Fire, we thought, would make a good poster child for this phenomenon.
And tell us about the Rim Fire. It was a personal experience with that particular fire that prompted you.
Absolutely. My family's fortunate enough to have a cabin up in the Sierra, and the Rim Fire burned very close up to it. And it really kind of was a wake-up call for both myself and Steve to, this was a different kind of fire. 250,000 acres, and it was just devastating, very high severity fire. We have to remember that the Sierra in California in general evolved with fire. And now the difference is we have thousands of people living in all these different areas. So add to that drier, warmer conditions, as much as anything, a byproduct of climate change. And you have a recipe for a lot more wildfire.
So what then do you think, or you propose in the documentary, is the solution? Is part of the education getting people to think differently about wildfires?
That's exactly right. We're very used to thinking about earthquakes in California, and a lot of proactive work, a lot of investment has gone into infrastructure to protect us from earthquakes. We need to think about wildfires in the same way. It has to do with building codes, it has to do with transportation, evacuation routes, but also we have to put fire back into the forests because the forests are not healthy without fire.
Prescribed burns, there needs to be more of that.
Yes.
And now you guys have been working on this documentary for a number of years. You were about to wrap up production about a year ago, and then the North Bay wildfires happened. Do you remember that moment when you realized the story continues?
I certainly do, like many of us. I mean, on October 8th, we had a rough cut that we were pretty happy with. And October 9th, last year, we woke up, and like many people, we smelled smoke. And, obviously the wine country wildfires was just devastating. And, seeing that footage, we realized this is kind of our worst nightmare. We saw, when you've seen wildfire up close, and you've seen how powerful it can be, when you're standing next to these firefighters and they say things like, I haven't seen that before, that is, it's a wake-up call. And you realize, okay, having something that strong, that powerful in these subdivisions is going to be devastating, And so we decided to really go back into production and to kind of do part of that story, because we think that's a big part of the story right now, because we have so many people living in these what they call wildland urban areas, or urban interface, so to speak, and that is critical.
After people see your documentary, what would you like them to go out and do or think about afterwards?
Well, we're doing community screenings because we think people need to discuss this as communities. Fires aren't just a matter of the individual household having a fire extinguisher. People not only need to work together to figure out evacuation routes, to work for building codes, to support.
Plan communities differently.
Exactly.
Maybe not in the path of some of those.
So we want the film to bring people together to discuss the specific situation, the environment around them, what's flammable, how to create defensible space around their homes. There's a lot of thinking that people need to do, and it's specific to each area.
Okay, Stephen Most and Kevin White, thank you so much for talking with us. The documentary is called Wilder Than Wild: Fire, Forest, and the Future. We've put some more information about the movie and Saturday's screening in San Francisco on KTVU.com. Look for it in the web links section under the Mornings on 2 tab. You can also find it on our mobile app. We'll be right back.